I came home to find my parents packing my things for a move. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. The first thing I heard was packing tape screaming off a roll. Long, steady, final. And then I saw my name in thick black marker on boxes stacked by the front door. Jamie, old room. I stood there with my overnight bag cutting into my shoulder. This was my childhood house in the suburbs outside St. Louis, the place I still ran to when my apartment felt too small for my thoughts. I'd texted Mom an hour earlier. On my way. Want me to grab dinner? She'd replied with a thumbs up, like everything was normal. Inside, the living room looked staged. Sofa pushed back. A donation pile of folded sweaters and picture frames. Trash bags cinched tight. My mother, Diane, was in leggings and a crisp cardigan, hair perfect, hands moving with the calm efficiency she used when she hosted. My dad, Mark, hovered near the hallway, pretending to read the mail while his jaw worked like he was chewing something bitter. Hey, I said. What's going on? Diane didn't even pause. We're organizing. Don't make it a thing. Mark finally looked up, eyes sliding past me to the boxes. We're moving some things around, he murmured. For a move? I asked, because my brain needed a label. Are you moving? Diane smiled without warmth. It's been coming. You're overreacting. I walked to the nearest box and peeled back the flap. Inside were my yearbooks, my old hoodie from community college, a framed photo of me at my EMT dispatcher training, what Dad used to call my little phone job. My stomach dropped. You packed my stuff? I said. Why is my room? Your room isn't yours, Diane cut in, still taping. You haven't lived here in years. I'm here all the time. And we were going to tell you, she said, voice sweet and sharp. It's temporary. You can store it at your place. My place. A one-bedroom with a leaky faucet and a landlord who answered texts 2 days late. I worked nights dispatching ambulances. I didn't have an attic. I barely had closets. Mark rubbed his forehead. Let's not fight. Not tonight. That was when I noticed the moving company estimate on the coffee table, tomorrow's date circled in yellow. Then I saw the second page, storage unit lease, rented under my name. I'd been the family easy one for as long as I could remember. The kid who didn't ask for much, who learned early that arguing only made Diane's mouth go thin and Mark's shoulders fold inward. My older brother Alex got the praise and the perks. He played varsity baseball, went to a decent college, and somehow never had to explain where his rent money came from. I worked 2 jobs through community college, then landed in hospital dispatch because it felt honest when people called begging for help. Diane liked to say she supported that choice, but her support always came wrapped in a sigh. It's stable, she'd tell relatives. Jamie likes routine. Mark joked that I was the family operator, like I was a headset, not a son. The thing was, I still came home. Not because the house was perfect, it wasn't, but because it was familiar. After a string of bad roommates and one breakup that left me sleeping on a couch for a month, this place felt like the only proof I'd belonged somewhere. I kept a few boxes in my old closet. Childhood mementos, winter coats, the kind of stuff you can't fit into a life that never quite settles. 2 weeks earlier, Diane had called me on my break between shifts. Her voice had that too bright tone, the one she used when she was pretending she wasn't asking for something. Can you come by soon? She said. We have some plans. What kind of plans? I asked. Oh, nothing you need to worry about, she replied. Just adult decisions. I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. I'm 31, Mom. She went quiet for a beat, then added, and you still act like a guest here. That line had stuck in my ribs like a splinter. I told myself I was being sensitive. I told myself she was stressed. But now, staring at boxes with my name, I heard her words differently, like she'd been practicing them. I turned back to Diane, holding the storage lease between 2 fingers. Why is this in my name? I asked. Mark cleared his throat. Jamie, just put that down. Diane's eyes flicked to the hallway, toward my old room, and her voice dropped. Because you wouldn't have agreed otherwise, and we needed it done fast. And that was when Alex's truck pulled into the driveway, right on time. Alex came in like he owned the air. He didn't hug me, didn't ask why I looked like I'd been punched. He just glanced at the boxes and said, Finally. Finally what? I snapped. Diane gave him a warning look that somehow sounded like my name. Jamie, lower your voice. I walked past them toward the hallway. My old bedroom door was open, and the sight stopped me cold. The bed frame was stripped, mattress leaned against the wall. My dresser drawers were taped shut with blue painter's tape. Every surface was bare except for a neat stack of boxes labeled in Diane's handwriting. Clothes. Jamie. Books. Jamie. Misk. Jamie. Like I was an inventory item. On the floor sat a plastic bin I recognized instantly, my important papers bin. I'd left it here because my apartment had flooded last year, and I didn't trust my building. I knelt and popped the lid. My birth certificate was gone. I spun around. Where's my certificate? Mark hovered in the doorway, hands up like he was calming a dog. We moved it. It's safe. Where? Diane followed me in, her perfume mixing with cardboard dust. Stop interrogating us. You're making this harder. How is packing my life up without telling me not hard? My voice cracked on the last word, and I hated that it did. Alex leaned against the doorframe, scrolling his phone. You're acting like they threw you out on the street. I stared at him. Did you know about this? He didn't answer, which was an answer. Then I noticed the labels weren't new. Some boxes had old packing tape under fresh tape, like they'd been opened and resealed. And on top of the closet shelf sat a stack of moving supplies. Rolls of tape, bubble wrap, permanent markers, and a printed checklist with dates. I pulled it down. At the top, in bold, move out timeline. Under it were tasks, storage unit reserved, donation pickup scheduled, utility transfer, with check marks beside them. The first date on the list was 6 weeks ago. Diane reached for the paper. Give me that. I held it higher. 6 weeks? You've been planning this for 6 weeks. Mark's face went gray. Alex's phone stopped scrolling. Diane's smile snapped into place like a mask. Because we needed to protect the family. From what? I demanded, and Diane finally looked scared. Diane exhaled like she'd been holding her breath since I was born. We're selling, she said, as if that explained everything. Selling the house? I asked. You never said. We didn't want opinions, she replied. It's already in motion. Mark nodded too fast. It's a good offer. Quick close. Cash. No showings. No showings. I repeated. So you're just leaving? Diane's eyes narrowed. Jamie, do not spiral. I walked back to the living room and snatched the moving estimate off the coffee table. It had a company logo, a phone number, and a line that made my stomach turn again. Destination, storage unit, 3 months prepaid. Below that was the renter name, Jamie L. Harper. You opened a storage unit in my name, I said, loud enough that Alex finally looked up. Why? Mark's voice went thin. Because you have good credit. I actually laughed, a short ugly sound. I have good credit because I don't do weird stuff like this. Diane stepped closer, keeping her voice low like she was coaching me through a tantrum. We were going to reimburse you. It's temporary. What's temporary? I asked. The move? The storage? Or me? She didn't answer. She just reached for the paper again, like if she could take it, the problem would disappear. So I pulled out my phone and called the moving company number right there, thumb shaking. It rang twice. Gateway Movers, this is Sean. A man answered. Hi, I said, forcing calm. I'm looking at an estimate in my name. Can you confirm the pickup date? There was a pause, keyboard clicking. Sure thing. Pickup is scheduled for January 15th. I blinked. That can't be right. It's January 22nd. Sean chuckled like I'd made a joke. We rescheduled once. Original pickup was January 9th, but the client asked for the 15th. Now it's tomorrow, the 23rd. My chest tightened. I looked at Diane. You've been doing this since the 9th? Diane's mouth opened, then shut. Mark stared at the floor. Alex cleared his throat. Mom, you told me it was closing on the 24th. Diane whipped toward him. Alex, stop. He frowned. You said the 24th. That's what you said. And just like that, her story had a crack I could fit my whole hand into. Diane recovered fast. She always did. She looked at me like I was a problem she could solve by tightening her grip. Jamie, this is not your business, she said. It's my name on the lease, I shot back. And my stuff in boxes. Mark tried to step between us. Can we talk without yelling? No, I said, because I was done performing calm for people who were literally taping my life shut. Explain why you're packing my room like I died. Diane's eyes flashed. Because you don't listen unless we make changes. What changes? I asked. She pointed toward the driveway, toward my car, like it was an exit sign. You need to take your things. Tonight. We can't have you coming and going whenever you want. I stared at her. So you're kicking me out. We're setting boundaries, she corrected, like she'd learned the word from a daytime talk show. Healthy ones. Alex chimed in, voice cautious. Jamie, it's not personal. It's just time. Time for what? I asked him. For you to move in? Mark flinched, and that told me more than his words ever had. Diane crossed her arms. Alex is helping us transition. He's responsible. He has a future. I felt my face heat. And I don't. You have a job, she said, as if that was small. A job, not a plan. I worked nights, listened to people cry into phones, coached panicked spouses through CPR until medics arrived. I knew what real emergencies sounded like. But this was the first time I felt like my own home was an emergency, and the people inside it were refusing to call it one. Mark's voice cracked. Jamie, please. Just take the boxes. We'll talk later. Later. The word Diane used when she meant never. My hands curled into fists. Show me the sale agreement, I said. If you're selling, show me. Diane's smile returned, sharp as glass. Why would we show you anything? Because you used my name, I said. Because you're lying. My pulse hammered so hard I could hear it in my ears. Mark whispered, the closing is tomorrow, and we're already trapped. Trapped. The word landed like a weight. Mark wasn't dramatic. He avoided drama like it was contagious. If he said trapped, something was wrong enough that even he couldn't pretend. Trapped by what? I asked. Diane snapped. Jamie, stop fishing for reasons. I walked past her, heart pounding, and went straight to the kitchen. Diane's command center was always there. A corkboard with schedules, coupons, and a neat folder holder labeled bills. She liked control and paper form. Mark followed, hands fluttering. Please don't. I pulled the folders out. Mortgage statements, utility bills, and then a thick envelope with red lettering I'd seen once before at work when we served paperwork to a patient's family. Notice of default. My mouth went dry. I flipped it over. It was addressed to Mark and Diane Harper. It had a bank logo and a date, December 3rd. Under the heading were words I didn't want to read, but my eyes did anyway. Past due amount, acceleration clause, intent to foreclose if not cured. Diane snatched for it. I held it away. You're in default. It's being handled, she said, voice tight. Put it back. You said you were selling? I shot back. Cash offer. Quick close. Mark's face twitched. That's the plan. So the house is being sold because you're about to lose it, I said, and the sentence made the air feel colder. Diane leaned in, nails digging into my wrist as she tried to reclaim the envelope. You do not get to judge us. I'm not judging, I said, shaking. I'm trying to understand why you forged my name on a storage unit. Alex appeared in the doorway, silent now. He looked smaller, less smug. Mom, he said quietly, are you behind on other stuff? Diane's eyes flicked to the counter where her phone lay face down. It buzzed once, twice, a third time. Mark reached for it like he couldn't help himself. He answered, turning away, and I caught only pieces. Yes, tomorrow. No, Jamie doesn't know. Just keep him calm. My spine went rigid. Mark ended the call and froze when he saw me watching. Who was that? I asked. Mark confessed. The realtor said you might ruin the deal. I didn't sleep. I drove back to my apartment with 2 boxes wedged in my back seat. Diane had insisted I take some tonight, like it was a kindness, and my head full of numbers I didn't have yet. At 7 a.m., after my shift ended, I sat in my car outside the county records office with Tasha on speaker. She never sugarcoated anything. You're telling me they opened a storage unit in your name and won't explain the closing? She said. Jamie, that's not boundaries. That's a setup. I just need facts, I said, staring at the building. If the house is sold, it's public, right? Yep. Deeds, liens, notices, she replied. Go inside and breathe. Inside, the clerk slid me a kiosk and pointed at the search bar. I typed our address. My hands shook so hard I misspelled my own street twice. A list popped up. Notice of default, notice of trustee sale, and my stomach lurched, HOA lien. The filing dates weren't yesterday. They were November 14th, December 3rd, and December 19th. Months. Not a sudden crisis. A slow leak they'd been hiding while I ate Diane's pot roast and listened to Mark joke about football. I printed the summaries. The past due mortgage amount was listed in plain digits, $47,820. The HOA lien, $6,412. There was also a power of attorney document filed January 5th. Power of attorney? I called Mark from the parking lot. He didn't pick up. I called Diane. Straight to voicemail. So I called the number on the notice of trustee sale. A woman answered with a practiced, neutral voice. Trustee services. Hi, I said, trying to sound like an adult who wasn't falling apart. I'm calling about a property on. I gave our address. Is there a sale date? Yes, she said. Public auction is scheduled for February 2nd unless reinstated. February 2nd, I repeated, because hearing it out loud made it real. But my parents said they're closing tomorrow. There was a pause. There is also a private sale pending, she said carefully. But you are not listed as an authorized party. I swallowed. Who is listed? I'm sorry, she replied, gentler now. The authorized agent is Alex Harper. Tasha went silent on the line, and so did I. I drove straight to Alex's apartment. I didn't text. If I gave him time, he'd craft a story the way Diane did, smooth, plausible, empty. He opened the door in sweatpants, hair messy, like he'd been asleep. He saw my face and tried to shut it again. I stuck my foot in the gap. Why are you listed as the authorized agent? I asked, holding up the printed summary like a warrant. Alex's eyes flicked to the paper. Where did you get that? County records, I said. Not exactly classified. He exhaled, rubbing his forehead. It's not what you think. That's what everyone says right before it's exactly what I think. He stepped back, letting me in. His living room was filled with baby gear, crib parts, unopened diapers. His girlfriend's shoes by the couch. So there was a future here, and it needed money. We're trying to save the house, Alex said. Mom said if we sell fast, we can pay the arrears and keep our credit. Our, I echoed. He winced. Look, I'm the one who's been talking to the investor. It's easier if one person handles it. Investor, I repeated. Not buyer. Alex grabbed his laptop and opened an email thread. The sender name made my skin crawl. Hearthstone Property Solutions. The subject line. Cash offer plus storage arrangements. He scrolled past cheerful bullet points. No repairs needed. Close in 7 days. Seller pays 0 fees. Then he clicked an attachment. A sale-leaseback agreement. In plain language, it said my parents would sell the house, then rent it back month to month. If they missed one rent payment, Hearthstone could evict them. And you thought this was saving the house? I asked. Alex's voice rose. What else were we supposed to do? Dad took a pay cut. Mom has medical bills. They were too embarrassed to tell you. I stared at the agreement. At the line listing additional occupants. None. Meaning me. You cut me out, I said, quieter. On purpose. Alex's jaw worked. Mom said you'd make it about you. I laughed once, bitter. I'm literally on the storage lease, Alex. He looked away. That part was Mom's idea. I leaned closer. Why did they need my credit for a storage unit at all? Back in my apartment, I pulled my credit report the way Tasha told me to. Like ripping off a bandage you already knew was stuck to skin. 2 hard inquiries in December. One for a Premier Storage Services account, which matched the lease. The other was worse. A personal loan application for $25,000 with a local credit union I'd never stepped into. The address listed wasn't my apartment. It was my parents' house. I called the credit union and asked for the loan department. The woman who answered sounded bored until I said, I think someone applied in my name. Her voice sharpened. Sir, can you confirm your social? I confirmed, jaw tight. She put me on hold. When she came back, her tone was careful. There is an application under your information. It was declined due to missing documentation. Who submitted it? I asked. I can't disclose that, she said. But I can tell you the contact email used. She spelled it out. jamieharper1979@gmail.com. I was born in 1993. I opened my email and searched for credit union. Nothing. Then I searched my spam folder and found an automated alert from a free credit monitoring service I'd signed up for years ago. New account attempt detected. The timestamp was December 7th. The location, my parents' zip code. My hands shook so hard I dropped my phone. All the little comments Diane made about me being dramatic suddenly felt like a strategy. Keep me doubting myself while they used my name like a tool. I drove back to the house that night, not to scream, yet, but to look. Diane had always kept a filing cabinet in the den. House stuff, she called it. I waited until their bedroom lights were off. then used the spare key Mark insisted I still had for emergencies. The den smelled like lemon cleaner and old carpet. I pulled the drawer open and found folders labeled in Diane's neat handwriting: medical, mortgage, HOA. Then one labeled simply, Jamie. My throat closed. Inside were printouts of my credit report, my old apartment lease, and a photocopy of my driver's license, one I hadn't given anyone in years. Underneath was the power of attorney document, signed January 5th, granting Diane authority over Mark's finances. The signature on the witness line wasn't Mark's, though. It looked like mine. I froze with the paper in my hands, like if I didn't move, I wouldn't exist. The house creaked. A floorboard popped in the hallway. Jamie. Mark's voice, low and confused. I shoved the folder back, but it was too late. Mark stood in the den doorway in a t-shirt, eyes squinting like he was trying to focus on a nightmare. Behind him, Diane appeared, hair wrapped, face already set in anger. What are you doing? She hissed. I held up the power of attorney. Why is there a folder with my name? Why do you have my credit report? Diane's eyes went straight to the witness signature. Her jaw tightened. Put that down. No, I said, voice trembling. Did you sign my name? Mark looked between us. Diane. She stepped closer, voice syrupy and dangerous. You broke into our house. I used my key. I shot back. The one Dad told me to keep. Mark flinched like he'd been slapped. Jamie, you can't just. You can't. I interrupted. You can apply for loans in my name and pack my room like I'm trash? Diane's face hardened. We did what we had to do. That's not an answer, I said. That's something people say right before they get arrested. Mark's eyes widened. Arrested? Diane snapped her fingers at him. Mark, call the police. He's trespassing. My stomach dropped. Are you serious? She didn't blink. You're unstable. You're overreacting. You came in the middle of the night, snooping through private documents. That's not normal. Mark's hand hovered near his phone like he didn't know which reality to choose. I could see it, his fear of conflict, his fear of Diane, his fear of losing the house, all twisting him into someone I didn't recognize. I lowered my voice. Dad, please, look at the signature. Mark took a step, eyes on the line, and for a second his face softened like he finally understood the danger. Then Diane cut him off. If you don't leave right now, she said, I will tell them you threatened me. My lungs burned. I backed toward the door, hands up, heart pounding so hard it hurt. Mark whispered, meet me alone before the closing and bring the papers. By morning I had a folder of evidence. County filings, the notice of default, the credit report, screenshots of the Hearthstone emails Alex showed me, and the power of attorney with the witness line that looked like my signature. Tasha met me at a coffee shop near the title company listed on the moving estimate. She slid into the booth with her laptop already open. Okay, she said. We don't accuse anyone until we can prove it. I can prove it, I said, tapping the papers. But they'll just say I'm dramatic. Then we make it impossible to spin, she replied. We get it on record. The title company's website had a number. I called and asked, casually, is there a signing scheduled tomorrow for the Harpers? The receptionist confirmed there was a seller signing at 11 a.m. Today? Today? Not tomorrow. My skin went cold. Diane had lied again, even after being caught. Tasha leaned in. We show up. We ask questions. We bring the documents. And we bring Alex. Alex didn't answer my first call. He answered my second, voice tight. What? You need to come, I said. If this is really about saving the house, you should want transparency. He hesitated. Mom will freak. Good. Tasha said loudly enough for him to hear through my phone. Maybe she should. There was a long silence. Then Alex muttered, fine, but don't blow it up. I didn't promise anything. At 10:45, we waited in the parking lot. The title company sat between a dentist and a payday loan place. Mark's car pulled in first. He got out slowly. When he saw me, he nodded once, like he'd made a decision. Then Diane's SUV rolled in, and she stepped out in a blazer like she was headed to court. She spotted Tasha and froze. Who was that? My witness, I said. Since you like signatures so much. Diane's smile didn't reach her eyes. Jamie, you are not doing this here. Mark's hands trembled as he held the folder I'd given him. Diane, he said quietly, we can't keep lying. Alex arrived last, jaw clenched, and Diane's face changed the moment she saw him. Alex swallowed and asked, what exactly did you find, and who signed? Inside, The lobby smelled of toner. Diane's smile turned on. "Hi," she chirped. "We're here for the Harper signing." Karen glanced at me and Tasha. "And these are—" "My son," Diane said, like I was a prop. "He's emotional." Tasha's eyebrows shot up, but she stayed quiet. That was the deal. Let Diane speak until she trapped herself. We were led into a conference room with a long table and a stack of papers. Mark sat slowly. Alex hovered by the door, torn between fleeing and staying. Karen slid a packet toward Diane. "Deed transfer, disclosures, leaseback addendum." "Leaseback," I repeated. Diane shot me a look. "Jamie, please." I pulled my own copy of the Hearthstone agreement from my folder and placed it on the table. "This leaseback." Karen's smile faltered. "Sir, are you authorized?" "I'm the person whose name is on the storage lease," I said. "And apparently on a loan application." Mark's face crumpled. Diane's hand tightened around her pen. "This is not the time." "It is literally the time," I said, voice shaking. "Because once you sign, you're trapped." I slid the power of attorney across the table and pointed to the witness line. "Karen, does your office require witnesses for this?" Karen leaned in, frowning. "Sometimes. That one looks unusual." Diane snapped. "It's fine." Tasha turned her laptop so Karen could see. My credit report inquiries, the loan application email, the county filings. Dates, amounts, addresses. Karen's eyes widened. "Mr. and Mrs. Harper, I need to pause this signing." Diane's mask slipped. "You don't get to pause anything. We have an appointment." Mark finally spoke, voice hoarse. "Diane, tell them the truth." Diane whipped toward him. "The truth? You want the truth?" She jabbed a finger at Mark. "Blew our savings at the casino 2 winters ago. And when the bills came, he hid them. So yes, I did what I had to do." Alex stared. "Dad, is that real?" Mark's shoulders sagged. "I thought I could fix it," he whispered. "I didn't want you to hate me." Diane turned on me, eyes bright with fury. "And you were supposed to stay the easy one, Jamie." Karen's phone rang, and she answered, pale. "Hearthstone is on the line, asking why we've stopped." Karen ended the call and looked at all of us like we'd brought a bomb into her office. "I'm documenting this," she said. "I cannot proceed with a signing where fraud is alleged." Diane's chair scraped back. "Fraud," she spat, like the word was an insult. "My son is trying to sabotage us." Tasha stayed calm. "Your son is trying to keep his credit from being destroyed." Mark stared at the table, hands shaking. "Diane, we used his name. We used what we had," Diane snapped. "If Jamie cared about family, he'd help instead of humiliating us in public." Public. That was her real fear. Not foreclosure. Not identity theft. Shame. Karen slid the packet away from Diane. "Mrs. Harper, I'm going to recommend you speak to an attorney. Also, because a power of attorney and a credit application appear to involve another adult's information, you may need to report this to the bank." Diane's face went white for half a second, then hardened again. "We're leaving." She grabbed her purse and marched out. Alex followed, stunned, whispering, "Mom, wait." Mark stayed seated, eyes wet, like his body couldn't choose a direction. When the door shut, Mark finally whispered, "She forged it." My throat tightened. "You let her?" He nodded once, miserable. I was scared. I kept thinking I could win it back. I kept thinking the next paycheck would fix it. I wanted to scream. Instead, I did the adult thing my parents always demanded. I called my credit monitoring service, froze my accounts, and filed an identity theft report from the parking lot while Mark sat in his car staring at the steering wheel. That night at work, I took a 911 call from a woman begging me to save her father. My hands were steady for her. But when I hung up, I realized I couldn't even save my own. Alex called once, voice shaking. "Hearthstone says you breached the contract," he said. "They're emailing Mom about liquidated damages and a February 2nd auction." Diane texted me at 2:13 a.m. "If we lose the house, it's on you." Then an unknown number texted, "Hearthstone will sue you tomorrow." The next day, Mark met me at a diner off the highway, the kind with laminated menus and coffee that tasted like burnt honesty. He looked like he hadn't slept. His hands shook when he wrapped them around the mug. "I can't lose the house," he said. "You already did." I replied, softer than I felt. "You just don't know when it hits." He flinched. "Diane says if you unfreeze your credit, she can get a bridge loan. Just a month. We pay it back after the sale." "No," I said immediately. My credit is not the family emergency fund. Mark's eyes watered. Then what do we do? Tasha had helped me draft a simple document the night before. No legal magic, just clear boundaries. I slid it across the table. If you want my help, I said, it's like this. Mark read, lips moving. It required 3 things. First, Diane had to sign a statement acknowledging she used my information without permission and agreeing to stop. Second, Mark had to enter a gambling counseling program and allow the bank to communicate with him directly, not through Diane. Third, any money I contributed, if I contributed at all, would go straight to the mortgage servicer, not to them, and only after a written repayment plan. Mark stared at the last line. If any further fraud occurs, I will cooperate with authorities. That's harsh, he whispered. It's reality, I said. You taught me consequences. I'm just applying them. His shoulders slumped. She won't sign. Then you make a choice, I said. Not between me and her. Between truth and the hole you're digging. Later that afternoon, Diane called. Her voice was controlled, dangerous. So you're blackmailing us? I'm protecting myself, I said. If you want help, sign. She laughed, cold. Jamie, you don't have the stomach to watch your father homeless. My hands clenched, but my voice stayed steady. Try me. After we hung up, I changed every password I'd ever reused and put a fraud alert on my file. I also drove to the storage unit, showed my ID, and demanded the contract be closed in front of me. An hour later, Mark texted me a photo of the signed page. But Diane's signature was dated next week, not today. 3 months later, the boxes were no longer stacked by my parents' door. They were stacked in the corner of my own living room, waiting for me to decide what parts of my childhood deserved space in my adulthood. The house didn't get saved the way Diane wanted. The Hearthstone deal died the moment Karen documented the fraud concern, and the bank wouldn't talk to Diane once Mark admitted he'd hidden notices. Mark entered a gambling counseling program through a local nonprofit, and for the first time in years, he started answering calls instead of dodging them. He met with the mortgage servicer directly and set up a repayment plan that was boring and humiliating and real. Diane moved into Alex's place temporarily. She told everyone at church that I'd abandoned them. She never apologized for using my name. She just stopped denying it once her signature was on paper and my accounts were locked down. Alex tried to play mediator until I asked him one simple question. If it were your credit, would you call this love? He didn't have an answer. I used to think being the easy one meant I was kinder. Now I think it just meant I was easier to use. The night I came home to find my life boxed up, I learned something ugly. People will call it a move, or boundaries, or doing what's best, when what they really mean is control. If you're reading this and your family is suddenly organizing, don't let shame keep you quiet. Check public records. Pull your credit report. Freeze your accounts. Screenshot everything: dates, amounts, emails, texts. And if someone uses therapy language to bulldoze your consent, name it for what it is. I went to one therapy session because Tasha practically dragged me, and I kept going because it felt like finally having a witness who wasn't invested in my silence. I learned to say no without explaining. I learned to visit with a time limit. I learned to leave when Diane started rewriting history. The storage company refunded the deposit once I proved the account was opened without my consent, and the credit union flagged the fake email. I still love my dad. I just stopped letting love be a blank check.